everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is somewhat of a different one. It is going to be my 10,000 subscribers special. I'll be reflecting on my past YouTube self by watching one of my old videos from exactly a year ago. It's an interesting video because it was the very first video that I made when I just started working from home as part of what's going on, and now it's been an entire year of working from home. So I think it's definitely an interesting one to look back at and just see how much I've grown on YouTube in that time. I definitely need to do some sort of updated productivity tips for staying motivated working from home because I feel it's something that people still struggle a lot with. But what I'm going to be doing today is looking over this video, 10 tips for being productive at home, and just seeing, do I still agree with these tips? Do I still follow them myself? Stick around till the end of the video for my 10,000 subscriber giveaway because I have something very exciting in store for you. A quick thank you to everybody for 10,000 subscribers. I couldn't do it without you, so if you haven't subscribed yet, do so now so you can be part of the growing base here that we have of productive PhD students or productive people or normal students, whatever it might be. But subscribe down below, hit the notification bell so that you know when new videos are uploaded, and let's get into this video. I will have it linked down below in case you want to see if I haven't delisted it by the end of this. First thing we're going to do is watch through the ad so that we can get all of that money. Hello everyone and welcome back to PhD and Productivity. So if you're new here... Okay, what is with the background music that is louder than my actual voice? And it's just... I don't even remember this background music. My name is Ciara and on this channel we talk about all things about doing a PhD and staying productive during that time, but a lot of what I talk about is going to be relevant for anyone who's a student or working in any sort of... Also, I look positively dead inside. If there's one thing that I'm going to get from this, I think it's going to be seeing at least how much my content has developed, even just for my own personal comfort on camera, because so far in this video, and I also noticed because I looked back at an earlier video the other day, the difference in even just how I interact on camera is so different. I came across initially in those videos, I think, really just impersonal and just not at all engaging, and it just seemed like I would rather be anywhere else in the world. And as well, just my tone of voice and everything, it was not great. It was breathy, it was sounding really shaky, and I remember lots of times in the beginning when I would go to film videos that I would actually need to pause the video because I would be so out of breath because of not speaking properly during the videos and just not having that sort of practiced breath control for getting through those phrases. I remember that I was so out of breath almost all the time filming the videos. So even if you are not a PhD student, I hope that you'll be able to find something useful on this channel and in this video. So today we're going to be talking about some tips for working from home. Oh, the audio too. I used to have to enhance the audio because it was on my phone. So on iMovie you can do something where you do enhance audio, which can be good, but it also means you end up with this uneven audio. So some parts sound really good and some parts sound really bad. Thankfully now I have my microphone, which helps a lot with that. A lot of people who are able to work from home are being asked to work from home. For some people this is going to be completely new, so I hope that a lot of these tips will be helpful for you. Or if it's not something that's something I'm guilty of, I think, is these sort of long intros. You can always stand to and I know it's something I need to improve upon being productive because I still tend to do it sometimes. There will always be some, you know, on days off and stuff like that. I recently read this book called Rest, and it's all about why you get more done when you work less and how to really utilize your time to the best of your advantage when you work less. So this video, I literally made it right when I came home from Belfast, and I had just read the book Rest for the first time. So this was when I started talking about those sorts of things. And it was also when I had just learnt on the train home. I first watched an interview with Alyssa Vitti, who's the author of In the Flow, and I just learnt about flow living. So I had just realised about the whole possibility of different routines working for men and women separately, and that, you know, women tend to work better with a variation in routines. So the first tip that I have for you guys is to stick to a schedule, and that's really important because it can be easy to see working from home as this ideal lifestyle where you can sleep into whatever time of day and then work whenever. If you don't want to work during the day, you can work in the evening and stuff like that. But it's not necessarily the best thing to be putting all your work till the end of the day. So the first tip is stick to a schedule. I do think this still. I think it's still important to make a schedule at least. I don't think it needs to be the same schedule day to day, and that's something I talk about a little bit here, that I just recently found out that schedules might fluctuate depending on what type of work you're doing at a different time, and that can sort of be based around the different stages of the hormonal cycle. But I do think it's still important to schedule your time. So I would typically schedule each week at the weekend before, and I'd usually update that throughout the week. Each evening I'd look at my schedule for the next day and just make some sort of adjustments if needed. And I think that's really important for making sure that you stay on track with getting your work done. I do think it's really, really important to do that. Do I think you need to have a strict schedule that you follow week to week? No. I think for some people that will work really well and for other people it won't. And it's important to try these things out and just see what works well for you, because yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to change person to person. But I think going into every day without a schedule means that you are always going to be uncertain of what amount of work you need to get done. And that can really, really be difficult when you're trying to stay motivated with your work, because if you don't know what you should be doing, this can just be a big problem. So I do still recommend sticking to a schedule. And along with that, there goes to setting a morning routine for yourself. During this time, it would be definitely a great opportunity for you to find a morning routine that works for you and getting that into your habit every day so that your body becomes primed to work, because you are doing the same things to sort of get yourself ready for work each day, and your body will start to understand that those series of actions are what leads to do work. Number 2 on this list is sticking to a morning routine. I do recommend this, but I don't do it, and I really, really should. So this is one where I need to give out to myself a little bit and say, you know, you really should be sticking to a morning routine, because I do think it's a good way for your brain to start to remember certain patterns. And even if it's just the simplest thing, so picking 3 really quick things that you do every morning, it could be coffee, 5-minute meditation, and light a candle. I don't know, whatever it might be. But if you stick to the same sort of set things each morning just before you start work, so I suppose not even calling it a morning routine, but a pre-work routine where you have a couple of things that you do right before you start your work, I feel like this really turns your brain on. It makes it understand, okay, I'm connecting these things with work, and it gets your brain ready for that type of work. It definitely is something I haven't been doing, so I do need to work on that. I need to start doing that more. I think I can do it at different times, and then there's other times where I'm less on it, but then there's also times where I don't feel like I need it. So for example, I'm definitely in a phase right now where I can just get up, start working, and get a couple of hours work done and I'm good. Whereas there's other times where I'll get up and I won't feel that same sense of wanting to work, in which case that sort of pre-work routine can be a great way to get yourself going. So the third tip would be to set aside an area of your home or your apartment as your work area. So obviously it would be ideal if you have a separate room for your work. That's not your bedroom, not the living room, not the kitchen, that you just have to focus on your work so that you can really isolate the tasks that you do for work in a specific area, and you can really associate that space with your work. However, I understand that that's not possible for everybody who is currently working from home. Perhaps you live in an apartment and don't have a lot of space, but it's important to still make sure that when you're doing work, you're doing that in a different space to normal, because otherwise you will start to do your normal activities like watching TV and doing all these different things without actually focusing on your work. I definitely still agree with this tip. I suppose recently I rearranged my workspace at home. I'm still waiting for some furniture to come in for my bedroom so that I can get you guys a room tour. But I've been definitely much more enjoying this sort of setup. Sometimes I do work away from this setup. I'll work downstairs in the kitchen at our sort of kitchen island. And for me, that's quite a nice place to work, to mix it up, because I don't really do anything else there. So it's not like it's associated with anything else for me. When I'm feeling really demotivated on a particular sort of annoying task, something that I don't need to necessarily focus super hard on, if I feel like I don't want to do something, I will move to a fun location. A change of scene can really help. So sometimes I'll work downstairs in a different part of the house that will help me get something done. Another sort of tip in that area is to give yourself a reward if there's something you really don't want to do, because that way there's something there that will make you push through that a little bit more. But I think overall, working in the same location is a good way to sort of set some boundaries for yourself. This is where I work, this is where I rest. Just so that then you don't end up expanding your work outside of normal working hours, giving yourself bad work-life balance. Or the other way around, finding that you're in an area that you're getting distracted because you usually would be chilling watching TV in this area and now you're trying to work there. So I do definitely recommend trying to do this. I know it can be difficult in terms of space, but it definitely is something that will make a big difference. My workspace is in my bedroom, so I think it's not like you need a whole separate room for this. It's just that you need to try and find even a little small area that you can just designate to your work. Even if you just have a small apartment and you use every part of your space, you could even just move, let's say, your dining room table slightly and change the chair so that you're facing something different than usual and it can feel like a different space. And setting up the workspace like that will be ideal for you to be able to disconnect your home life from your work life. I think this video, apart from the fact that I look dead inside and look like I can't breathe, other than that, I think, and the horrendous audio and background music, other than all those things, I think this is a good video. It's just that the content I think is there, but the whole situation going on there is it's not good. One tip I thought actually was kind of good in here, if you are in a small location where you need to work at your dining room table, let's say, even if you're able to just rearrange it a bit so you're facing a different direction than normal, so that it just feels like a different area than when you usually use that space. If you're usually facing out into the open, then maybe switch to the other side of the table so that it's just a different sort of thing that you're looking at, and that can mean that your workspace feels a bit different to what you'd usually use it as, sort of a dining area or whatever it might be. The next tip that I have for you is to get ready for work. So obviously that depends on yourself. So that tip, get ready for work. I think you will know from many of my vlogs in December, if you've been around since then, that I often don't follow this advice. And do I think I should? I'm not sure. I definitely feel like I can work in my pajamas just as well as I can in work clothes, and even me getting ready for work is often just the upperwear, like you're wearing something like this and then tracksuit bottoms or pajama bottoms on the bottom. And I think that works fine, but I do think it's sort of a mindset thing. I've always loved working from home and I've always found it worked really well for me. Even when I was in secondary school, I would often take days off and work from home because I liked it better. I do think it just depends. If you struggle with working from home, I think getting ready and having that sort of routine really does help. But for me, and I think for lots of other people, it doesn't really make a difference. So maybe I'll try this out and see, but it's definitely not something I'm doing at the moment. Not only should you get ready for work in your physical appearance, you should also do it the same way that you would get ready for work on a normal day. So if you usually have your lunch prepared, have it prepared for yourself at home because it's just easier and it won't interrupt your day as much. So the next tip was prepare your workspace, or, prepare for work in the sort of day-to-day, what you usually would prepare for if you were going to the office. This is something I haven't been doing but have just recently started doing again. So last week I did a big meal prep and it meant that I had stuff ready for during the week for lunches and things. And it made such a big difference to the following work week. It really did. Then last week at Sunday I didn't, and it again has impacted this work week. It's been definitely not flowing as well in terms of food. I really think I need to keep that up, the whole meal prepping thing, because it made such a big difference the time that I did it. So making sure that your lunch and everything is ready to go the day before. That's what I usually would have done going to the office. I'd have my lunchbox or whatever ready. And same, whatever snacks I might need for the day, I'll have them all laid out and ready to go. And that just means that your workday can just run smoothly. And it also means you can enjoy your lunch break a lot more because you can spend it doing something more restful in a way. So listening to a podcast, going for a nice walk, doing whatever it might be. That doesn't involve the stress of cooking, cleaning up and everything like that. I do think it makes a big difference. And it means as well during the day, you're not taking out random 15-minute chunks here and there to do different things that you usually wouldn't do in the office. The next tip is to sort of stick to business as usual. So try to keep, while you're working, the same rules in place as you would use in your work office. I do think this tip is really useful. Sometimes I think when I'm having a bad day with work, when I have things I know I need to do and that I would rather have a fun work day, I will sometimes break that rule. I think it's all about balance. I think if you're trying to work hard, you definitely need to not be having anything else on if you're really trying to do that deep work. But every once in a while, I think it's okay to break one of these rules and just do what you think works best for you that day. But I definitely feel in general you can't be watching things, or I definitely think having videos on is a bad idea, but sometimes I'll have a podcast on that I think I would try to avoid. But sometimes, again, if you need that sort of uplifting day where you want something, a bit of fun in the background, and that you know it's going to make your workday a bit longer but potentially a bit more enjoyable, then I think that's worth doing sometimes. A big thing with that as well is trying your best to keep your phone away from your desk. I do think your phone is one of the worst things you can have around when you're trying to have an effective workday. And the same way, if you have anything like WhatsApp or whatever sort of messaging service, if you have that on your laptop, just turn it all off for the day. Try your best to stay away from your phone, even in the morning before you start to go to work, because the morning time, I think you're easily open to distractions, and starting your day with some time on social media can be a really, really bad thing to do. I do think obviously it's important during this time when everyone's feeling disconnected to still be staying in touch with people. So I try to use my phone more mindfully, so spending that time sending a message to friends or to loved ones rather than scrolling on social media, looking at people's pages who you don't really care that much about. It's much more worthwhile to spend that time on a FaceTime call with your friends or family or whoever, sending a little message to somebody who you actually really care about, than just mindless scrolling or anything like that. Obviously, in terms of distractions, it can be harder when you've got other people at home, so trying to put up conversation with the people around you. But during your working hours, if you have to work in an open space, to make other people aware that you are working and you're not around for a chat all the time. The next tip is setting boundaries with people at home. That's one thing people often say about working from home. They find it really difficult with other people being around who might distract them. I think it's important to just have that chat with people at home to say, look, I really, really find it difficult to concentrate on my work while I'm talking to other people. Would you maybe be okay if we just talked about this later? Maybe you can motivate each other and do some sort of co-working, but in a way that you follow some sort of strict time limits. One thing that can be good to do a co-working session, you use a Pomodoro timer where you get 25 minutes of solid work followed by 5 minutes of rest. And during that time, you can chat to your housemates or whoever is at home and spend that time on a little break together, rather than having the whole 30 minutes of chatting and working in a not so productive way. The next thing is to take breaks. Now, just because you're at home all day doesn't mean that you shouldn't be taking breaks the same way that you would at work. As PhD students, you generally have a lot of control over your breaks, but it's important to actually stick to specific break times rather than leaving them open-ended, because then you might really not be able to return to your work in the same way. The next tip is taking breaks. I definitely feel that's something that's hugely important, and it's definitely something I do stick to. So I typically take around an hour for lunch and a walk every day. Sometimes I'll take maybe a 15-minute break earlier in the day as well, but usually that's pretty much what I do, and I do think it's an important way to break up the day, and it means you can come back for the second half of the day much more refreshed. I think that's important because otherwise, if you end up trying to work through, you'll end up not really having that productive a day, because the afternoon won't be as productive as the morning necessarily if you haven't had a bit of a break. As well, another thing that's good to do on these breaks is to actually socialise with co-workers or family members or whoever you please, but to not be completely isolated during this time. So arranging maybe Skype calls or something like that with people that you would like to talk to on these breaks is very important. Socializing with coworkers I think is a great tip, and it's something I do occasionally. I find it hard to work with others sometimes, so I think it's something that works well for me sometimes, but not all the time. Co-working I think is a great way to do that, so I like to use Gather for that because it means you can share a screen and then see each other in the little virtual world. It also means that you can have your camera on and chat and just be able to spend that time together. So I do have that as part of my membership program, that you can do co-working sessions a couple times a month with me. So if you do want to be part of that, be sure you're joined up on the membership, and you'll find out that info in the community tab for members only. If you want to do that with your friends though, a great thing to do is to use some sort of Pomodoro timer, as I mentioned, so that you have those 25 minutes of work followed by 5 minutes of breaks. So make sure you're strict with that you do that hard work for the 25 minutes, then you can chat away for the 5 minutes afterwards. And it's a great way to keep yourselves accountable, keep each other accountable, make sure you're both getting some great work done. What I think is hilarious in this sort of thing was, it's obviously before Zoom has fully taken off, because I said you can Skype with your friends. What? Who uses Skype? I think this was obviously before I even knew about Microsoft Teams or Google Hangouts or anything, but I definitely would have used Zoom before, but probably not known how much it would be in my life at this point, which I think is quite funny. And the last tip that I have for you guys is to stop once you're finished your work. So whatever time you said that is going to be the time that you're going to be working, do stop afterwards. Don't let yourself work for an entire day. It can become very tempting because you start to blur the lines between home and work, and you start to just think that you can work at all hours, and it's really unhealthy. And the best thing to do is, once you've done whatever number of hours you're supposed to just stop. The last tip is to stop working, and that's something that I have been doing quite well which it's more about the process of stopping your work that's more important here. The best way to stop your work is to make sure that you finish your day with a list of things that you need to do the next day. And the reason for that means that the next day you're not overwhelmed, sort of not knowing what to do. If you have a list of things that you need to do and that you know straight away, okay, I can get into this and start working on this, then you're really going to be able to start your day effectively the next day. I think lots of people will tend to try and get through their whole to-do list. The next day that means you will be struggling to think of what to do, or you might not know how to get some early easy wins in your day. So having a list of things that you can do the next day is really important. So every time I finish my workday, I try to do a little summary of what I've done that day, and I also make sure that I have at least 3 things on for the next day that I need to do. That means that I will never feel overwhelmed the next morning, and that I can always get stuck into the workday the next day. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for, our 10,000 subscriber giveaway. I am giving away a €100 Amazon gift voucher, or $100, pounds, whatever it might be, to one of you lucky winners. To enter the giveaway, it's very simple. All you have to do is subscribe, hit the notification bell, and also comment down below, and you will be automatically entered into the giveaway. I will notify the winner by replying to your comment to say that you've won and ask for some way to get in touch with you. That is a pretty simple way to potentially win €100 or pounds or dollars in Amazon vouchers. That is it for this video. It was definitely a bit of a different one. I think the main thing that I learned is that I have come a long way in terms of talking to the camera and just my overall content. I definitely feel like I still agree with a lot of what I said in that video, but I think at least the content has improved over time. Thanks again for 10,000 subscribers, and if you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe down below and hit the notification bell so that you know when new videos are uploaded. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to all of my wonderful members, and I will see you all in the next video.